In a galaxy far beyond human imagination, an ancient alien empire known as the Vrin had ruled for thousands of years. These beings, with their sleek silver ships and towering cities floating among the stars, thought of themselves as gods. They believed they were destined to control everything, from the smallest moon to the largest star system. The Vrin were not just powerful, they were arrogant. They saw other species as nothing more than tools to be used or crushed under their boots. For centuries, no one dared to oppose them. Entire civilizations fell before their might, their planets stripped of resources, and their people turned into slaves. It was a dark time in the galaxy where fear ruled over hope. But somewhere in this vast universe, a small blue planet called Earth orbited its sun. Humanity had no idea about the Vrin or their empire. People on Earth were busy building their own world, dreaming of exploring space but still taking baby steps. In 2073, humanity sent out a deep space probe to study the outer edges of the solar system. It was supposed to be a routine mission, nothing special. But something strange happened. The probe suddenly stopped sending data back to Earth. At first, scientists thought it was a technical issue. Maybe the equipment had malfunctioned, or maybe the probe had collided with a piece of space debris. No one paid much attention to it at first. After all, space exploration was still new, and failures were expected. But then, more probes disappeared. Each one met the same fate, sending strange readings before going completely silent. Scientists around the world started to grow uneasy. Something wasn't right. Then, one clear night, astronomers using powerful telescopes noticed something extraordinary. Near Saturn's orbit, massive objects appeared out of nowhere. They didn't move like comets or asteroids. Instead, they seemed to emerge from some kind of invisible doorway in space. The objects hung there, perfectly still, casting long shadows across the rings of Saturn. When the images were analyzed, the truth became undeniable. These were ships. Alien ships, and they weren't just any ships, they were enormous. Each vessel was bigger than Manhattan Island, triangular in shape and bristling with weapons that looked capable of destroying entire planets. The United Earth Council, a group of leaders representing all nations, immediately called an emergency meeting. Scientists, military experts, and politicians gathered to discuss what they should do. Some suggested sending a message of peace, hoping the aliens would be friendly. Others argued that preparing for war was the only option. While debates raged on Earth, the alien fleet remained motionless near Saturn, watching silently. Days turned into weeks, and still, the ships did nothing. It was as if they were waiting for something or someone to make the first move. Finally, the decision was made. Earth would send a delegation to meet the aliens. A small fleet of Earth's most advanced spacecraft powered by experimental fusion engines set out toward Saturn. These ships were primitive compared to the alien vessels, but they were the best humanity had to offer. As the human fleet approached, the alien ships finally reacted. Massive doors opened on the sides of the triangular vessels, revealing rows of smaller craft that began moving toward the humans. The delegation tried to communicate, broadcasting messages in every language and frequency they could think of. But the aliens didn't respond. Instead, their ships surrounded the human fleet, cutting off any chance of retreat. Back on Earth, panic spread quickly. News of the alien presence reached every corner of the planet. People watched live broadcasts of the standoff near Saturn, holding their breath as they waited for what would happen next. Governments declared states of emergency, and militaries around the world went on high alert. Everyone knew that humanity's survival might depend on what happened in the next few hours. On the edge of Saturn's orbit, the tension was unbearable. The human delegation waited nervously as the alien ships loomed closer. Finally, a voice crackled through the communication systems. It wasn't in any human language, but somehow, everyone understood it. "You are now under the control of the Vrin Empire," the voice said coldly. "Resistance is futile." The humans on board the ships froze. They had hoped for diplomacy, for a chance to prove that humanity was worth respecting. But the Vrin didn't care. To them, Earth was just another planet to conquer. another species to dominate. The alien ships began scanning the human vessels, probing their defenses and gathering information. It was clear that the Vryn viewed humanity as weak and insignificant. What they didn't know was that humans had a secret weapon, one they didn't even realize they possessed yet. Deep beneath the ice of Antarctica, researchers were working on something incredible. Decades earlier, scientists had discovered the remains of an ancient alien civilization buried under miles of frozen terrain. At first, they thought it was just ruins, leftovers from a long-dead race. But as they dug deeper, they uncovered technology far beyond anything humanity had ever seen. There were schematics for weapons, energy shields, and even faster-than-light travel. The discovery had been kept secret, hidden away in classified facilities around the world. Now, with the Vryn threatening Earth, those secrets were humanity's only hope. As the alien fleet prepared to advance toward Earth, engineers and scientists worked around the clock to activate the ancient technology. They knew they didn't have much time. If the Vryn reached Earth, it would be the end of humanity. But the technology was complex, designed by a species that had vanished millions of years ago. Every step forward came with setbacks, and frustration grew as the clock ticked down. Meanwhile, the human fleet near Saturn continued to hold its ground, buying precious time for the researchers back home. Though outnumbered and outgunned, the human ships refused to back down. They launched desperate attacks against the Vryn, knowing full well that they couldn't win. Their goal wasn't victory, it was delay. On Earth, people watched the news with bated breath. Cities emptied as families gathered in underground shelters, preparing for the worst. But amidst the fear, something remarkable began to happen. Humanity, for the first time in its history, truly came together. Nations put aside their differences and worked as one. Factories that once produced cars and electronics were repurposed to build weapons and defense systems. Ordinary citizens volunteered to help in any way they could, whether it was sewing uniforms or coding software for the new alien technology. Even children contributed, writing letters to soldiers and drawing pictures of Earth's flag flying proudly in space. It was as if the threat of extinction had awakened something deep within humanity, a determination to survive no matter the cost. Back in Antarctica, the researchers finally made a breakthrough. Using the ancient schematics, they activated a device that created a massive energy shield around Earth. It wasn't perfect and it wouldn't last forever, but it bought humanity more time. At the same time, orbital platforms began rising from hidden installations around the world. These platforms, armed with planet-destroying weapons reverse-engineered from the alien technology, took up positions in Earth's skies. When the Vryn fleet finally reached Earth's orbit, they were met with a sight they hadn't expected, a planet ready to fight back. What happened next shocked both sides. The Vryn, who had spent centuries conquering weaker species without resistance, found themselves facing an opponent unlike any they had encountered before. Humanity's primitive ships may have been no match for the Vryn's advanced technology, but human ingenuity and sheer willpower made up for it. Pilots flew their ships with reckless abandon, sacrificing themselves to protect their home. Ground-based defenses fired relentlessly, forcing the Vryn to retreat temporarily. For the first time in their long history, the Vryn felt fear. They had come to conquer Earth, but instead they found themselves locked in a battle they couldn't easily win. As days turned into weeks, the war raged on. Humanity continued to adapt, learning from every encounter with the Vryn. New tactics were developed, and old strategies were refined. Slowly but surely, the tide began to turn. The Vryn, who had always relied on their superior technology, found themselves struggling against an enemy that refused to give up. Back on Earth, morale soared. People cheered as news of victories, no matter how small, reached them. The ancient alien technology, once a mystery, was now being fully integrated into Earth's defenses. Humanity was changing, evolving into something stronger and more united than ever before. The Vryn invasion had started as a nightmare, but it was becoming something else entirely, a story of resilience, courage, and the unbreakable spirit of humanity. And though the war was far from over, one thing was certain: Earth would never be the same again. As the war between humanity and the Vryn dragged on, Earth's skies became a battleground unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The Vryn fleet, though still formidable, was no longer the unstoppable force it once appeared to be. Humanity's resistance had grown stronger with each passing day, fueled by desperation and ingenuity. What started as a one-sided invasion had turned into a grueling fight for survival, with both sides suffering heavy losses. But while the Vryn relied on their superior technology and brute force, humans brought something unexpected to the table: creativity, adaptability, and an unshakable will to protect their home. The turning point came during what would later be known as the Battle of Europa. It was a daring plan conceived by General Elena Vasquez, a brilliant strategist who had risen through the ranks after losing her family in the early days of the invasion. Vasquez knew that Earth couldn't win a direct confrontation with the Vryn. Their ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, and their numbers overwhelming. But she also knew that humanity had one advantage: familiarity with their own solar system. The Vryn might have advanced technology, but they didn't understand the environment they were fighting in. That gave Earth a chance. Vasquez proposed a risky operation, luring the Vryn fleet into Jupiter's dangerous radiation belts. The radiation there was so intense that it could fry even the most advanced electronics. For years, scientists had warned spacecraft to stay clear of the area. But Vasquez saw an opportunity. If they could trick the Vryn into following them into the belts, Earth's forces could use the harsh conditions to their advantage. The plan was risky. Human ships weren't immune to the radiation either, but Vasquez believed it was worth the gamble. "We're not just fighting for today," she told her team. "We're fighting for tomorrow." The operation began with a series of feigned retreats. Human ships would engage the Vryn briefly before pulling back toward Jupiter, making it seem like they were fleeing in disarray. At first, the Vryn commanders hesitated. They had been trained to avoid unnecessary risks, preferring to overwhelm their enemies with sheer firepower. But as the human fleet continued to retreat, the Vryn grew bolder. Their arrogance blinded them to the trap being set. Believing they were about to deliver a decisive blow, they ordered their ships to pursue the humans deeper into the solar system. When the Vryn fleet entered Jupiter's radiation belts, chaos erupted. Their advanced systems began malfunctioning. Almost immediately, shields flickered, communications broke down, and weapons failed to fire. The humans, who had prepared extensively for this moment, activated specialized shielding developed from the ancient alien technology found in Antarctica. While their ships weren't completely immune to the radiation, they could withstand it long enough to execute their plan. As the Vryn fleet struggled to regain control, Earth's forces struck with precision. Quantum weapons, another gift from the ancient alien civilization, proved devastatingly effective in the radiation-saturated environment. These weapons created cascading energy storms that spread uncontrollably through the Vryn fleet. Ships caught in the storms were torn apart, their hulls ripped open, and their crews killed instantly. Dozens of Vryn vessels were destroyed within minutes, leaving the survivors scrambling to escape the deadly radiation belts. For the first time since the invasion began, the Vryn tasted defeat. The psychological impact of the Battle of Europa was profound. Back on their command ships, Vryn officers stared at the reports in disbelief. How could a species as primitive as humanity inflict such damage? The Vryn had spent centuries conquering weaker civilizations, never encountering significant resistance. Now they faced an opponent who refused to play by the rules. Humans didn't fight like other species. They didn't surrender when outnumbered or give up when outgunned. Instead, they adapted, improvised, and fought with a ferocity that bordered on madness. On Earth, news of the victory spread quickly. Cities erupted in celebration as people took to the streets, waving flags and chanting slogans of defiance. For the first time in months, hope began to replace fear. The Battle of Europa wasn't just a military triumph. It was proof that humanity could stand up to the Vryn. It showed that even the mightiest empire could be challenged if you were willing to fight smart and fight hard. General Vasquez became a hero overnight. her name spoken with reverence across the globe. Her strategy had proven that Earth's defenders weren't just soldiers. They were innovators, thinkers, and survivors. But the war was far from over. The Vryn still outnumbered Earth's forces, and their remaining fleet was regrouping beyond Saturn's orbit. Earth's leaders knew they needed to strike back before the Vryn could recover. Using the momentum from the Battle of Europa, humanity launched a series of surgical strikes against key Vryn supply lines and communication hubs throughout the solar system. These operations were led by Captain Marcus Kane, a former test pilot turned space warfare expert. Kane had earned a reputation for his daring tactics and quick thinking, often pushing his ship and crew to the limits of endurance. One of Kane's most successful missions targeted a massive Vryn refueling station orbiting Neptune. The station was heavily guarded, but Kane devised a clever plan to infiltrate it. He commanded a small squadron of stealth fighters equipped with cloaking devices reverse-engineered from captured Vryn technology. Under cover of darkness, Kane's team slipped past the station's defenses and planted explosives deep inside its core. When the charges detonated, the explosion lit up the night sky, visible even from Earth. The destruction of the refueling station crippled the Vryn fleet's ability to operate in the outer solar system, forcing them to retreat closer to Saturn. While Kane and his pilots harassed the Vryn in space, ground-based engineers worked tirelessly to develop new technologies that could turn the tide of the war. One breakthrough came in the form of faster-than-light, FTL drives. Reverse-engineered from Vryn wreckage, these drives allowed Earth's ships to travel vast distances in seconds. With FTL capability, humanity could finally take the fight to the Vryn's home territory. The first FTL-equipped vessel, christened Starblade, was launched under strict secrecy. Its mission, to conduct reconnaissance behind enemy lines and gather intelligence on Vryn strongholds. The Starblade's journey into unknown space marked a new phase in the war. Piloted by Commander Sarah Lynn, a decorated veteran of the Battle of Europa, the ship ventured deep into sectors of the galaxy controlled by the Vryn. Along the way, Lynn discovered evidence of widespread oppression and suffering among the Vryn's enslaved species. Entire planets had been stripped bare, their populations reduced to servitude or worse. Lynn documented everything, transmitting data back to Earth via encrypted channels. The images and reports shocked the world, galvanizing public support for the war effort. People realized they weren't just fighting for themselves, they were fighting for freedom across the galaxy. Meanwhile, Earth's military strategists began planning a bold counterattack. Codenamed Operation Dawnbreaker, the plan involved launching simultaneous assaults on multiple Vryn strongholds using FTL-equipped ships. The goal was to stretch the Vryn forces thin, forcing them to divide their attention across dozens of fronts. To execute the operation, Earth assembled its largest fleet yet, consisting of hundreds of ships armed with quantum weapons and shielded by ancient alien technology. Among the fleet's commanders was General Vasquez, who had been promoted to oversee the entire operation. Operation Dawnbreaker commenced on a cold winter morning. As the sun rose over Earth, fleets of ships lifted off from orbital platforms and disappeared into hyperspace. Their destinations included key Vryn worlds, military outposts, and resource extraction facilities. The attacks caught the Vryn completely off guard. On one planet, human commandos sabotaged a massive mining operation, freeing thousands of enslaved workers. On another, fighter squadrons destroyed a Vryn shipyard, crippling the Empire's ability to build new vessels. Each victory weakened the Vryn further, sowing doubt and fear among their ranks. Back on Earth, the war effort continued to unite humanity in ways no one had imagined possible. Factories operated around the clock, producing weapons, ships, and supplies. Scientists worked side by side with engineers, combining ancient alien knowledge with modern innovation. Even children contributed, writing letters to soldiers and drawing pictures of Earth's flag flying proudly in space. Propaganda broadcasts showcased victories while hiding devastating losses, maintaining public morale through carefully crafted narratives of inevitable triumph. Artists painted murals depicting heroic battles, musicians composed songs celebrating courage, and writers penned stories of sacrifice and resilience. As the weeks turned into months, the Vryn Empire began to crumble. Once mighty fleets were reduced to scattered remnants retreating deeper into their territory. Liberated species joined forces with humanity, forming alliances that strengthened Earth's position. Together, they formed the seeds of a new order, one based on cooperation rather than domination. The Vryn, meanwhile, descended into chaos. Their leaders argued over strategy, their soldiers lost faith in their cause, and their subjects rose up in rebellion. By the time Operation Dawnbreaker concluded, the balance of power had shifted dramatically. Humanity, the final chapter of humanity's war against the Vryn began with a daring raid that would go down in history as one of the most audacious operations ever attempted. Codenamed Operation Shadow Strike, it was designed to cripple the Vryn leadership and destabilize their command structure. The mission targeted the heart of the Vryn Empire, their central command station, known as the Nexus Spire. This massive orbital fortress served as both the nerve center for the Vryn military and the throne room of their supreme ruler, Emperor Xerax. Destroying it would not only deal a crippling blow to the Vryn but also send a clear message to the galaxy. Humanity was no longer afraid. The operation was led by Major Arjun Patel, a former intelligence officer turned elite operative. Patel had earned his reputation through countless covert missions behind enemy lines, where his ability to think on his feet and adapt to unpredictable situations made him invaluable. For Operation Shadow Strike, he handpicked a team of Earth's best soldiers, engineers, and hackers. Each member brought unique skills to the table, skills that would be crucial for infiltrating the heavily fortified Nexus Spire. Among them were Lieutenant Mei Chen, an expert in alien technology, Corporal Diego Alvarez, a demolition specialist, and Dr. Elena Novikov, a linguist who had spent years deciphering Vryn communications. The plan was simple yet perilous. Using cloaked stealth shuttles equipped with advanced jamming devices, the team would sneak into the Nexus Spire undetected. Once inside, they would split into two groups. One group, led by Patel, would sabotage the station's power core, while the other, commanded by Lieutenant Chen, would plant explosives at key structural points to ensure maximum destruction. Meanwhile, Dr. Novikov would attempt to access the Vryn communication network to broadcast a message directly to Emperor Xerax, a declaration of humanity's defiance. The mission launched under the cover of darkness. As the stealth shuttles approached the Nexus Spire, tension gripped every member of the team. The fortress loomed ahead, its surface gleaming with energy shields and bristling with defensive turrets. Any misstep could mean instant death. But luck was on their side, or perhaps it was skill. The jamming devices worked perfectly, masking the shuttle's presence as they slipped through the outer defenses. When they docked inside the station, the team moved quickly, blending into the shadows like ghosts. Inside the Nexus Spire, the full air buzzed with activity. Vryn officers hurried along corridors lined with glowing conduits while automated drones patrolled the halls. The human team moved silently, avoiding detection through a combination of stealth and quick thinking. At one point, Corporal Alvarez used a small EMP device to disable a patrol drone moments before it could scan them. Later, Dr. Novikov hacked into a terminal to reroute security cameras, creating blind spots that allowed the team to pass unnoticed. Reaching the power core proved more challenging than expected. The chamber was guarded by elite Vryn warriors clad in shimmering armor, their weapons charged and ready. Patel signaled for silence, then motioned for the team to follow him through a maintenance tunnel running parallel to the main corridor. It was cramped and dark, forcing them to crawl on hands and knees, but it led them directly beneath the chamber. There, Alvarez set to work planting charges designed to collapse the floor above them, giving them entry without alerting the guards. When the charges detonated, chaos erupted. The explosion sent chunks of debris raining down on the Vryn warriors, stunning them long enough for Patel's team to storm the chamber. A fierce firefight ensued with lasers flashing and smoke filling the air. Despite being outnumbered, the humans fought with precision and determination. Patel himself took out 3 Vryn warriors in quick succession, his movements fluid and calculated. Within minutes, the chamber was secured, and Alvarez began setting up the sabotage charges that would overload the power core. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Chen's group faced challenges of their own. Their task was to plant explosives at critical junctions throughout the station, ensuring that when the power core went down, the entire structure would collapse. But the Vrin had anticipated such tactics and installed fail-safes everywhere. Every time Chen's team tried to place a charge, they encountered locked panels or reinforced walls. Frustration mounted, but Chen refused to give up. She ordered her team to improvise using cutting tools and brute force to bypass obstacles. Slowly but surely, they completed their objectives, marking each location with a blinking red beacon visible only to their team. Back in the control hub, Dr. Novikov worked feverishly to hack into the Vrin communication system. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as lines of alien code scrolled across the screen. Breaking through the encryption took longer than expected, but finally, she succeeded. With a triumphant smile, she activated the broadcast link and typed out a message in flawless Vrin. To Emperor Zyrax and all who serve him, you came to our world expecting easy conquest, but you underestimated us. Humanity does not bow to tyrants. We do not yield to fear. Today we strike back, not just for ourselves, but for every species you have enslaved. Your reign ends here. The message echoed across the Nexus Spire and beyond, reaching every corner of the Vrin Empire. For a moment there was silence. Then alarms blared, signaling the imminent destruction of the station. Patel's voice crackled over the comms. All teams fall back to extraction point. Repeat, fall back now. The retreat was harrowing. Explosions rocked the station as the sabotage charges detonated one after another. Corridors collapsed and gravity fluctuated wildly, sending debris flying in all directions. Patel's team narrowly avoided being crushed by falling bulkheads, while Chen's group sprinted through collapsing tunnels. Just as they reached the docking bay, the power core finally overloaded, unleashing a massive shockwave that tore through the Nexus Spire. The surviving members of the team barely made it onto their shuttle before the entire station imploded, in a brilliant burst of light. As the shuttle raced away from the wreckage, cheers erupted among the crew. They had done the impossible. They had struck a fatal blow to the Vrin leadership, but their celebration was short-lived. Back on Earth, the cost of the war weighed heavily on everyone. Cities lay in ruins, millions had died, and the scars of battle ran deep. Yet amidst the devastation, something remarkable had emerged. Humanity had proven itself capable of standing toe-to-toe with the most powerful empire in the galaxy. That knowledge gave people hope, not just for survival but for a future where freedom reigned supreme. In the days following the destruction of the Nexus Spire, reports poured in from across the galaxy. Liberated worlds celebrated their newfound freedom, while others rose up against their Vrin oppressors. The Empire's once unshakable grip on the galaxy was crumbling. On Earth, leaders began planning for what came next. The United Earth Council convened an emergency summit to discuss how to rebuild and protect their planet while supporting the liberation efforts spreading throughout the galaxy. Scientists proposed building permanent orbital defense platforms, while military strategists advocated for expanding humanity's reach into deep space. But perhaps the most significant change occurred within humanity itself. The war had forced people to come together in ways never thought possible. Nations that had once been divided now stood united under a single banner. Resources were shared freely, borders became meaningless, and differences were set aside for the greater good. Even those who had doubted humanity's ability to face the Vrin found themselves inspired by the courage and resilience displayed during the conflict. Stories of heroism spread far and wide, reminding everyone of what they had achieved together. Among the heroes was General Elena Vasquez, whose strategic brilliance had turned the tide of the war. She addressed the global population in a live broadcast, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "We have shown the galaxy that humanity is not to be underestimated," she said. "Our strength lies not in our weapons or technology, but in our unity, our creativity, and our refusal to surrender. Let this victory be a reminder that no challenge is insurmountable if we stand together." As Earth looked toward the future, preparations began for the final push against the Vryn. Intelligence gathered during Operation Shadow Strike revealed the location of their remaining fleet, regrouping near Alpha Centauri. Humanity's newly constructed super dreadnoughts, armed with quantum singularity generators and shielded by ancient alien technology, prepared to engage the enemy in what would become known as the Battle of Broken Stars. Pilots trained tirelessly, soldiers honed their skills, and engineers worked around the clock to ensure every ship was ready for combat. Though the road ahead remained uncertain, one thing was clear: humanity had changed forever. What had started as a desperate struggle for survival had transformed into a galactic crusade for justice and freedom. The Vryn invasion had tested humanity's limits, pushing them to evolve in ways no one could have predicted. And though the scars of war would linger for generations, so too would the lessons learned: the importance of unity, the value of innovation, and the unbreakable spirit of a species determined to shape its own destiny. Earth's skies, once filled with fear, now brimmed with hope. Massive star destroyers patrolled the heavens, their presence serving as both a shield and a symbol of humanity. The Battle of Broken Stars began with a silence so profound that it felt like the galaxy itself was holding its breath. Humanity's fleet, consisting of thousands of ships ranging from nimble fighters to massive dreadnoughts, gathered at the edge of the Alpha Centauri system. The Vryn had chosen this location for their last stand, a vast expanse of space littered with shattered asteroids and drifting debris left over from ancient cosmic collisions. It was as if the battlefield had been waiting for them all along, a graveyard where two empires would decide the fate of the galaxy. Commander Sarah Lynn stood on the bridge of the Eclipse, Earth's flagship and one of the largest vessels ever constructed. Its hull gleamed with reinforced armor plating, and its weapon systems hummed with barely contained energy. Lynn's hands rested lightly on the railing as she gazed out at the stars through the panoramic viewport. She knew what was at stake. This wasn't just another battle, it was the culmination of everything humanity had fought for. Victory here would mean freedom not only for Earth but for countless other species enslaved by the Vryn. Defeat, however, would mean annihilation. The Vryn fleet loomed in the distance, a sea of triangular warships that seemed to blot out the light of nearby stars, massive and menacing. They dwarfed even Earth's largest dreadnoughts. At their center floated the Scourge of Eternity, Emperor Xyrax's personal command ship, an immense vessel bristling with enough firepower to vaporize entire planets. Despite their recent losses, the Vryn still outnumbered humanity's forces, nearly 3-1. But numbers no longer mattered. Humanity had something the Vryn could never understand: hope. General Elena Vasquez's voice crackled over the comms network, addressing every soldier, pilot, and engineer preparing for the fight ahead. "Today," she said, her tone steady yet fierce, "we finish what we started. Today we prove that no empire built on fear can stand against the courage of free people. Remember why you're here. Fight for your families, your friends, your home, and above all, fight for the future." As the transmission ended, the first wave of human ships surged forward. Piloted by some of Earth's finest aviators, these vessels darted between asteroid fragments, using the debris field as cover, while launching probing attacks against the Vryn perimeter. Their goal was simple: disrupt the enemy's formation and create openings for the heavier dreadnoughts to exploit. For hours the skirmishes raged, with lasers flashing and explosions lighting up the void. Though many human ships were lost, each sacrifice brought them closer to breaking through. The Vryn defenses, on board the Eclipse. Commander Lynn coordinated the assault with precision. Her strategy relied heavily on the quantum singularity generators installed on Earth's largest ships. These devices, reverse-engineered from ancient alien technology, could create artificial black holes capable of consuming anything caught within their event horizons. However, deploying them required careful timing. Activate too early, and the Vryn might evade. Activate too late, and friendly forces could be caught in the destruction. Lynn waited patiently, her eyes scanning the tactical display as the battle unfolded. Meanwhile, Captain Marcus Kane led a squadron of stealth fighters deep into enemy territory. His mission was to disable key Vryn communication relays, cutting off their ability to coordinate effectively. Flying under the cover of specially designed cloaking fields, Kane's team slipped past Vryn patrols and reached their targets undetected. With surgical precision, they planted EMP charges on the relay stations and detonated them simultaneously. The resulting electromagnetic pulse disrupted Vryn communications across the battlefield, leaving their fleet temporarily disorganized. Back on the front lines, Lieutenant Mei Chen commanded a unit of engineers tasked with repairing damaged ships mid-battle. Operating from a mobile repair platform dubbed the Forge, Chen and her team worked tirelessly to keep Earth's forces operational. When a fighter limped back with its engines failing, Chen's crew scrambled to patch it up before sending it back into the fray. Every second counted, and despite the chaos around them, they maintained an almost mechanical efficiency. "Keep moving," Chen shouted as sparks flew from a damaged engine core. "We don't stop until the job's done." As the hours dragged on, the tide of the battle began to shift. The Vryn, accustomed to overwhelming their enemies with sheer force, struggled to adapt to humanity's unconventional tactics. Human pilots employed hit-and-run maneuvers, striking critical points on Vryn ships before retreating into the debris field. Commanders like Vasquez exploited gaps in the enemy's formation, launching concentrated barrages that crippled multiple vessels at once. Even ordinary soldiers showed remarkable bravery, volunteering for suicide runs to deliver payloads of explosives directly into Vryn hangars. Finally, after 72 grueling hours of continuous fighting, Commander Lin gave the order everyone had been waiting for. "Activate the singularity generators," she commanded, her voice calm but firm. Across the fleet, engineers initiated the sequence, and moments later dozens of miniature black holes erupted throughout the battlefield. The effect was catastrophic. Entire squadrons of Vryn ships were sucked into the swirling vortexes, their hulls torn apart as gravity warped around them. Even the mighty Scourge of Eternity faltered, its shields buckling under the strain of escaping the pull of a nearby singularity. Emperor Xyrax watched in horror as his once mighty fleet disintegrated before his eyes. He had always believed the Vryn to be invincible, destined to rule the galaxy forever. But now, faced with an enemy that refused to yield, he realized the truth. His empire was crumbling. In a desperate attempt to turn the tide, Xyrax ordered his remaining forces to launch a full-scale assault on the Eclipse. If he could destroy Earth's flagship, perhaps he could demoralize the humans and force them to retreat. The attack came, swiftly. Hundreds of Vryn fighters swarmed toward the Eclipse Mir, their weapons blazing. Lin's crew scrambled to reinforce the ship's shields, but the relentless barrage began to take its toll. Explosions rocked the vessel, sending crew members sprawling across the deck. Lin herself was thrown against the railing, but she quickly regained her footing. "Divert all available power to the forward shields," she barked, "and prepare the countermeasures." Just as the situation seemed dire, reinforcements arrived. Captain Kane's stealth fighters reappeared, having completed their mission behind enemy lines. They launched a devastating surprise attack on the Vryn fighters, thinning their ranks and giving the Eclipse a chance to recover. Meanwhile, General Vasquez led a daring charge with her dreadnought squadron, slamming into the flank of the Vryn fleet and forcing them to divert resources away from the flagship. With the pressure relieved, Lin seized the opportunity. She ordered the Eclipse's main cannon, a weapon powered by the same ancient alien technology, to fire directly at the Scourge of Eternity. The beam struck true, piercing through the Vryn command ship's weakened shields and slicing clean through its core. A massive explosion engulfed the vessel, sending shockwaves rippling through the battlefield. Emperor Xyrax's reign and the Vryn Empire ended in a blaze of glory. As the surviving Vryn ships attempted to flee, humanity pressed their advantage. Fighters pursued the retreating fleet, ensuring none escaped to regroup. Within hours, the battle was over. Humanity had won. Exhausted but triumphant, soldiers and pilots cheered as news of the victory spread throughout the fleet. Back on Earth, celebrations erupted in cities worldwide. People poured into the streets, waving flags and embracing one another. For the first time in years, there was peace in the skies, but the cost of victory weighed heavily on everyone. Thousands of lives had been lost and entire communities mourned those who would never return. Yet amidst the sorrow, there was also pride. Humanity had risen to meet an impossible challenge and emerged victorious. The war had changed them, not just as individuals but as a species. They had proven that courage, ingenuity, and unity could overcome even the greatest odds. In the weeks that followed, Earth's leaders worked to rebuild and stabilize the galaxy. Liberated worlds sent delegations to Earth, seeking alliances and partnerships. Together, they formed the Galactic Concordance, a coalition dedicated to preventing any single power from dominating others again. The Concordance established trade, routes, shared knowledge, and promoted cultural exchange, laying the foundation for a new era of cooperation. For Commander Lin, the end of the war marked a new beginning. Standing on the bridge of the eclipse as it orbited Earth, she reflected on how far they had come. From the dark days of the invasion to the triumph of the Battle of Broken Stars, humanity had shown itself capable of greatness. As she gazed down at the blue-green planet below, she felt a sense of purpose stronger than ever before. The galaxy was vast and full of mysteries, but one thing was certain: humanity was ready to face whatever came next. Earth's skies, once filled with fear, now brimmed with hope. Massive star destroyers patrolled the heavens, their presence serving as both protection and inspiration. Below, cities rebuilt themselves stronger than before, fueled by dreams of exploration and discovery. Humanity had stared into the abyss and emerged victorious. Now they were ready to take their place among the stars, not as victims but as equals. The aftermath of the Battle of Broken Stars marked a new chapter not just for humanity, but for the entire galaxy. The Vrin Empire, once an unstoppable force that had ruled through fear and oppression, lay in ruins. Surviving members of the Vrin retreated to the farthest reaches of the galaxy, abandoning their conquered territories and leaving behind countless species who had endured centuries of enslavement. These liberated worlds looked to Earth with gratitude and admiration. Seeing humanity as more than just another species, they saw them as saviors. For the first time in galactic history, power shifted away from tyrants and toward those who believed in unity, freedom, and cooperation. On Earth, life slowly returned to normal, or at least as normal as it could be after such a monumental conflict. Cities rebuilt themselves, rising from the ashes of destruction stronger and more resilient than before. Skyscrapers gleamed under sunlight, their windows reflecting the blue sky above. Streets buzzed with activity as people went about their lives, though reminders of the war were everywhere. Memorials dedicated to fallen soldiers stood in every town square, their names etched into stone alongside messages of hope and remembrance. Schools taught children about the war, not just as a series of battles but as a lesson in courage, innovation, and the importance of standing together against tyranny. In orbit, massive star destroyers maintained constant vigil over the planet. These ships were symbols of both strength and caution, ensuring that no enemy would ever threaten Earth again. Beneath their protective gaze, humanity continued to evolve. Factories churned out advanced technology, much of it based on the ancient alien schematics discovered beneath Antarctica's ice. Scientists worked tirelessly to unlock even more secrets hidden within these designs, pushing the boundaries of what was possible. Space exploration became a global priority, with missions launched weekly to study distant planets, moons, and anomalies scattered across the stars. One of the most significant changes came in the form of the Galactic Concordance, the coalition formed by liberated species and humanity to ensure peace and prevent future empires like the Vrin from rising. Representatives from dozens of worlds gathered regularly aboard the Concordia, a massive space station built near Earth's moon. Here, diplomats debated policies, negotiated trade agreements, and planned joint ventures aimed at rebuilding shattered civilizations. Languages mixed freely in the halls of the Concordia, creating a vibrant tapestry of cultures united by shared goals. Humanity quickly earned a reputation as fair-minded and trustworthy leaders, often mediating disputes between newly freed species and helping broker alliances. For many of these liberated species, freedom was a concept they had almost forgotten. Generations had lived under the shadow of Vrin rule, stripped of their autonomy and forced to serve without question. Now they faced the daunting task of rebuilding their societies from scratch. Earth offered assistance wherever possible, sending teams of engineers, educators, and medical professionals to help. In return, these species shared their own knowledge and resources, leading to unprecedented levels of collaboration. Together, they worked to heal the scars left by the Vrin, fostering friendships that transcended differences in biology, language, or culture. Back on Earth, heroes of the war became living legends. General Elena Vasquez retired from active duty to focus on mentoring young officers, passing down her wisdom and experience to the next generation. Her lectures at military academies inspired cadets to dream big while staying grounded in the realities of leadership. Captain Marcus Kane, now a household name, wrote a memoir detailing his daring missions behind enemy lines. The book became required reading for pilots and strategists alike, offering insights into unconventional warfare and the value of adaptability. Commander Sarah Lynn chose a quieter path, stepping away from the spotlight to spend time with her family. Yet she remained deeply involved in shaping Earth's future, often consulting with government officials and scientists on matters of defense and exploration. When asked about her role in humanity's victory, she simply smiled and said, "I didn't do anything special. I just did my job, and so did millions of others." Her humility only added to her legend, reminding everyone that true greatness lies not in seeking glory but in serving something larger than oneself. As years passed, humanity's influence expanded beyond Earth's solar system. Colonies sprang up on habitable planets, each one a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. Some colonies focused on agriculture, growing crops capable of surviving harsh conditions. Others became hubs of research, studying everything from alien ecosystems to quantum physics. Trade routes connected these settlements, creating a network of prosperity that benefited all participants. Ships bearing Earth's flag traveled farther than anyone had imagined possible, venturing into uncharted regions of the galaxy in search of new opportunities and discoveries. But exploration wasn't without risks. Strange phenomena tested humanity's resolve, from mysterious energy fields that disrupted navigation systems to ancient ruins hinting at civilizations older than time itself. One such discovery occurred during a routine survey mission near the Andromeda Galaxy. A team of archaeologists stumbled upon a derelict spacecraft buried beneath layers of cosmic dust. Its design bore similarities to the ancient alien technology found in Antarctica, suggesting a connection between Earth and this long-lost race. News of the find sparked excitement across the scientific community, reigniting debates about humanity's place in the universe. Despite these challenges, humanity thrived. Art, music, and literature flourished, reflecting the optimism of a species that had stared extinction in the face and emerged victorious. Painters captured the beauty of alien landscapes, musicians composed symphonies inspired by the hum of starship engines, and writers penned tales of adventure set among the stars. Education systems adapted to prepare students for life in a galaxy-spanning civilization, teaching subjects like xenobiology, interstellar diplomacy, and advanced engineering. Even sports evolved, with zero-gravity competitions becoming wildly popular among colonists. Yet amidst this progress, there were warnings not to grow complacent. Leaders reminded citizens that peace was fragile and required constant effort to maintain. Military forces remained vigilant, conducting regular drills and upgrading equipment to stay ahead of potential threats. Intelligence agencies monitored suspicious activities, ensuring that no remnants of the Vrin Empire or any other hostile faction could regroup unnoticed. Humanity had learned the hard way that freedom must be defended, and they were determined never to let their guard down. Centuries later, historians would look back on the Vrin invasion as a turning point in galactic history. It wasn't just a story of survival, it was a tale of transformation. Humanity had entered the cosmos as vulnerable newcomers unsure of their place among the stars, but through sheer determination, creativity, and an unbreakable spirit, they had risen to become one of the most respected powers in the galaxy. Their victory over the Vrin proved that no challenge was insurmountable if approached with courage and unity. Today, Earth stands as a beacon of hope for all sentient beings. Its skies are filled with the hum of starships preparing for journeys. To distant worlds, its cities pulse with the energy of innovation, and its people carry the legacy of those who fought for freedom. The star destroyers that patrol above serve as a reminder of how close humanity came to annihilation, and how far they have come since then. Young cadets at space academies study detailed accounts of the war, learning valuable lessons about strategy, resilience, and the dangers of underestimating determined opponents. They train aboard sleek vessels equipped with cutting-edge technology, ready to protect Earth and its allies from whatever threats may arise. Meanwhile, deep space exploration continues, driven by humanity's insatiable curiosity and desire to ensure such threats never again endanger their homeworld. In the end, the story of humanity's triumph over the Vryn is more than just a historical event. It is a promise. A promise that no matter how dark the night, dawn will always break. That no matter how overwhelming the odds, hope can light the way forward. And that when faced with the choice between surrender and defiance, humanity will always choose to fight for their families, their friends, their home, and their future.